hold me. I need you, Lord. I need you. Hello, hello, hello again. I am Linda, the voice behind Heavenly Glimpse, and this is my blog chronicling my Christian walk, my journey, my struggles, the real deal, because I am not hiding anything, baby. I am I am one who has fought many battles, and I am trying to make it through, if anything. But anyways, catch me at heavenlyglimpse.wordpress.com if you want to read along with me. Today I am going through an article, a post I should say. This is from May 20th, 2018, and the title is Perfectly Fitting in Nowhere. I had it up. I don't know why I didn't click on it, but hey, whatever, right? But in this post, part of me kind of didn't even want to post it, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's so, in a way, elementary-ish. But then I was sitting and I was like, you know what, it's not about like really what I was going through. It's about shedding light on what God has done, and I thank God for that, and the realization of why certain things that I go through, because everything, of course, has a reason, it has a purpose. God wouldn't bring you through something just to bring you through something. Like, no, that's not the God that I serve. That's not the God that any of us serve. If anything, he teaches. A lot of the lessons, it's all about teaching and about growth. So, but it takes like some maturity to understand that. Yes, sometimes I still falter. I am human. I don't think I'll ever be one of those people like, oh, you better this, that. Because, baby, if you go through my blog or my videos, I fell and fell and fell and fell again. And I'm not saying, oh, that there is no change or any growth. I'm just being very honest, because sometimes we need that honesty, right? Because the world has like this fake persona that Christians are perfect, or they pretend to be perfect. And I am far from perfect. I am beyond far from perfect. I want to let people know that God is still working in me. If anything, I have not arrived. But anyways, here I'm again, like I said, I'm talking about perfectly fitting in nowhere. And I wanted to go back and get a little background about my struggles with bitterness and resentment and unforgiveness and anger. I talked about it being like a generational curse, and I battled with it very early on. And it's when I was young, I just had like a crave of, I really crave attachments, not to be mistaken with entanglements, but I've always wanted attachments. And it actually came from a place where it was like this weird thing that constantly does happen, or has happened in my life, where I would be really cool with certain people, or for whatever reason, whether it's friendship or anything else, and there's always like someone that's always there who always like kind of like steps in, and it's like always like, oh, this girl is not, what society finds acceptable or pleasing or anything of that sort. So it was always this one person who just couldn't see why people love me genuinely, so they always wanted to throw dirt on my name, or do certain things to deter people from caring for me or loving me or being around me or accepting me as I am. I don't put a front. I might be a little, I am many different things. If anything, my personality is pretty, I don't know a word to really explain me. I mean, to know me is to love me. That's really the best way to say it. But anyway, so at a very young age, I would deal with this constant battle and cycle that would happen in my life. And it was always someone who was always convincing other people to not deal with me in any capacity. And that kind of started the bitterness, the resentment, and rejection. And we know that those things kind of walk hand in hand, if anything. And like I said, it was a cycle, and it was kind of weird. Like, and as I grew older, I became like a default friend, like this default, well, not just friend, default person for people. Like, if there was no one else around, I would be the one that they would speak to, or whatever, for whatever reason. I don't know. It is what it is. And I talked a little bit about that in my other video, my other post as well, about how certain people would do certain things, and they would make it seem as if, that you didn't know, or you don't know what they're doing or whatever. But hey, whatever, it is what it is, right? But anyways, and then I talk about how as I got older, to get away from being that default friend to certain people, I would basically kind of like distance myself. I didn't really let too many new people in. I kept people at arm's length, and it's kind of crazy. When I did let my guard down just a little bit or whatever, it was like certain cycles happened again. So hey, all I can say is God was up to something, right? I believe that wholeheartedly, and I believe that the enemy tries to use certain things to kind of get us away from what God is up to. So as I grew older, like I said, I bred bitterness, and I became guarded. And sometimes being guarded, not even sometimes, all the time, there's no such thing as being guarded and keeping people completely out. Like, if anything, when you mature in the spirit, you have to pray about the connections that you make and ask God, hey, God, show me this person's heart. And if they're not for me, keep them away from me. That's a prayer that everybody should be praying daily, regardless of who it is. Because you could be friends or know someone for 30 years and you don't know them really well. So you always want to pray, because some people get complacent in certain relationships where they would test certain things. So you want to not be so caught off guard with certain things. Not to say that God is going to show you 100% every single thing that's going to happen. There are certain lessons that has to happen in our lives for us to mature. But yeah, becoming guarded is not really the way to go. But I had to learn that as I grew older, or a little bit more mature in the spirit realm. So yeah. As I got older, God showed me that I had like this gift of giving. I didn't mind giving, and sometimes a few times that's one of the things that kind of put me in certain positions. So I was already dealing with people feeling certain ways, and then there are certain connections that would come around, and it's like at first, especially when you become a new Christian and your heart is so open and you want to love people and you want to do so much and you want to, give and you want to help and all the other stuff. But there's a point where you have to realize that you are not God. Sometimes God puts certain people in certain situations for them to learn. And who are we to sit there and stop the lesson that God is giving someone by stepping over his toes and blessing somebody that God has cursed? Like, you just don't know. But that's why you have to have a relationship with God to know. And as I was a young Christian, it was very tough. There are people who took advantage of me, and this is within the church, if anything, or whatever. Well, let me not necessarily say church, but like people who were guiding me. There are people who took advantage, and that kind of brought me back to another place of like, rejection and bitterness and anger and unforgiveness. So I dealt with it many times, like even when I was guarded, when I tried not to be so guarded, when I was in my relationship with the Lord, I dealt with certain people that are that are saying they serve him, but they were taking advantage as well. So there was a lot that kind of got me to a point where I'm like, this bitterness thing is going to be a little hard to get past, because it just keeps happening and happening and happening and happening. But I thank God, because as I was giving, I didn't have really too many people to go to like say if I didn't have, which was very, very rare, because God has always provided. And I'm not saying that to boast. And I was always very content with what God had blessed me with as a young child. Like, I grew up in a single family home with my siblings, and I didn't feel, I don't know, maybe it's because I was young and I had like older siblings, that I didn't feel like what on paper it looked like. Like, God provided, and I thank God for that. I didn't go hungry. We always had, and I thank God for that. Out of the very little that we had, we always had. It didn't feel like, oh man, we're living like so impoverished or anything of that sort. So I thank God. And even with me as I grew up, like even with the little that I had, God always made sure like all the bills paid. Everything was like taken care of, and I always had a mentality, if I don't have it, that means I don't need it. So I thank God for that. And it brought me to a place where I realized that, whoa, God is truly a provider. Because when I didn't have or whatever, there was nobody for me to really go to ask. And even not just like get things or whatever. It's so much as like when you support people and they don't support you, it's, and that happens quite a bit. But I would go out my way to support people and they didn't support me. But it's like certain things they hurt, but when you see it in the spirit realm, it makes kind of makes more sense. And the reason why I didn't lack anything was because I wasn't expecting anything from people. Like I didn't expect anything from God per se. It's like I was just giving, and it was coming from the heart. I wasn't giving like, okay, God, I'm gonna give this person, so I'm gonna need you to pay me back for this. Or it was like, hey, I'll give you this, or I'll bless you this, and I need you to pay me back. It was just like my heart was really truly open. It was hurting after I realized that some people of course don't have the best intentions, but God always provided, and some people didn't like that. They didn't like that I was blessed. It's like this never ending cycle where people feel like she shouldn't be blessed, she shouldn't have anything, she shouldn't have a reason to even smile or be happy. There are people who wanted to just snuff out my joy in church, out of church, you name it. I mean, it was just something that I lived through, and it's a sad reality. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it shows you, it put in perspective how much God cares and loves his children. Where the world says that you don't deserve this or you don't belong, God is saying, but you're my child, you're my daughter, you're my son. I have called you. And the reason why you can't fit in is because you were called to be set apart. The reason why you're set apart is because you have work to do for the kingdom, and you can't be with the same people. You can't be with those people because they have no place in what I'm going to take you to. They have no place in what I'm going to do in your life. I don't know. I feel that so heavy, and I thank God. There are days where I don't feel that. I don't feel like I thank God, and I have to be very honest. But it's like sometimes when you think back on things and you try to help to understand, because it's like in the natural, Lord, I'm hurting. Lord, my heart is bleeding. Lord, nobody loves me. Nobody cares for me. Nobody accepts me. But God is saying, I have chosen you. Stop trying to be accepted by the world. If I have chosen you, if I have called you, listen to what I'm saying. Harden not your heart, and I will prosper you. Everything that you want is in me. So all the times I wanted to have attachments, have certain people in my life, God was saying those people didn't even have a place in your life. They're for a season, and some of them were just for a lesson. Of course, in a natural, you kind of like, hey, I would like to have like some genuine, connections with certain people. I'm not saying I don't have any like bonds and friendships in my life, but it's just certain things you realize I don't speak much on a lot of things. But I know that the people that are in my life, God has ordained, because they would have been gone. And if he would have told me to leave them, I would leave them. I have no problem with that, because God knows the plans that he has for us. And to hold on to something he's telling you to let go is like, how do you work against the plan that God has for you? How do you believe that you're going to get to where God is taking you if you don't adhere to what he's saying? So yeah, I went through a lot of that rejection and wanting and needing attachments, to realizing that, hey, not everybody's going to go or is equipped to go where God is calling you. And sometimes we have to be okay with what God is doing in our lives. It might hurt. It might be a lonely life, but your calling and your purpose is greater than being accepted by the world. I encourage you to look at things in a spiritual aspect. Rejected by the world is accepted by Christ. It doesn't always feel good, but it's the truth. So I pray that whatever you're going through, if you're going through anything, that God would mend your heart. He will heal the broken places, that the memories won't come back and bleed afresh. I pray that you seek God and understand why there are certain cycles. Whenever there are certain cycles, there's a spiritual purpose. It could be that the enemy is he sees where you're going, and you're becoming more of a threat, so he keeps trying to knock you back down. But at the end of the day, God is greater. It also means that those cycles mean that you're getting closer where God is calling you and God is leading you. So keep on pushing, keep on pressing, keep on seeking. Have a blessed one.